Jason Grace is a character from the Heroes of Olympus and the Trials of Apollo series by Rick Riordan. Jason was one of the 7 main demigods in the Prophecy of Seven, yet despite playing a major role in these books, he's one of the most disliked and hated characters. I've explained this on my other video of why Jason Grace is so hated, but looking back on that, I wonder what would make Jason into a better character. One of the reasons I've stated in that video was how readers didn't connect so much with Jason in the books, and an idea just dawned on me. What if Jason gets a standalone novel? This book could focus on a lot of aspects about him, and it could help readers finally understand his character. In this video, I'll be expanding on this idea more and explaining why I think Jason needs a novel of his own. I'll be going through Jason's character once more, so there will be spoilers following this. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Reason number 1. Jason's incomplete story. I reread the Heroes of Olympus, and one thing I can say is that Jason's character for the first few books felt like a giant question mark. I mean, look at it this way. We meet Jason for the first time aboard that bus and the Lost Hero, and he knows absolutely nothing. Jason was the most clueless character in the book because of Hera tampering with his memories, and we don't really know who the hell he is. There's an issue that I've stated in that video, and I think Rick tried to compensate for that by adding Jason's chapters throughout the Mark of Athena to the Blood of Olympus. However, there was still a problem with Jason's perspectives in the Mark of Athena and the House of Hades, and that was the fact that you still get nothing about Jason. Jason's perspectives are used as a reaction to something that happened. You don't get any flashbacks or memories that Jason has, and instead, it's more plot-oriented, with Rick telling you what's been happening and how Jason's responding to it. Though it's good to see that the plot is moving, this proves to be a disadvantage on Jason's part, because we just see him through the eyes of the other characters and not really in him. We get told secondhand information about Jason, but when it's time to go to his perspective, there's nothing. It's just him reacting to the events without adding a bit of importance to his character. This personally made me dread reading Jason's chapters because it felt bland and added nothing that much to his character. We only get glimpses of Jason's past in the Blood of Olympus, but it's long overdue to the point that as a reader, I didn't feel any interest in getting to know Jason more because we've been with his character for the past 4 books, wherein he didn't even catch my attention compared to the other characters. I remembered feeling like Jason's past was an info dump in the Blood of Olympus, and I wondered why we even needed it, until I realized that he was one of the main characters. This reaction is obviously a huge red flag on Jason's character, because the readers aren't interested anymore with him. And then, the last we ever get of him is in the Burning Maze, and we all know he was studying in school, and that he sacrificed himself for Lester and Piper. Jason's death is the highlight of that book, and when I read it, I felt like it was a random kill that Rick made. However, I realized that this moment made us all realize just how much Jason meant to the series. But at the same time, we still don't know so much about him. Added to what I mentioned on how we only get secondhand information on Jason without seeing it in him, it leaves a lot of questions about Jason's past because we don't see it so much. This brings us to reason number 2. Jason's unexplored past. Jason's past is one of the most obscure things we ever get in these books. It's mentioned a few times in The Lost Hero to the House of Hades, but we don't actually see it in Jason because of his amnesia issue. We only get information about his past from people around him, like Piper or Leo or Reyna. It's only given to us in detail in one book, The Blood of Olympus. Here, we saw how Jason's life was before Camp Jupiter. We learned he was kidnapped at a young age to be trained in the Wolf House with Lupa. That's one of the most vital parts of Jason's life, and that's the only thing we ever get in full detail. The rest of the information we know about Jason were things we're told about by the other characters. We realized that Thalia Grace is actually his sister, how Jason actually helped in the Battle of Manhattan, how he was promoted to Praetor, how he was best friends with Reyna and Leo, and how he defeated many enemies before the series. Because of this, I would want a standalone novel on Jason, because it would help support these stories and show them to us instead of telling us. We'd be able to see more of Jason's character and help build him up more into an established character. And this brings us to reason number 3. A standalone novel would help fans connect more deeply with Jason. I've already mentioned how Jason is one of the most hated characters in the Riordanverse. Some fans found him boring, bland, and so horrible that some even claimed that they skipped his chapters and even called him a side character even if he was one of the main characters. Readers weren't able to grasp and connect with his character, and with all of this, I would want Jason to get a standalone novel of his own, because this would help people build that needed connection with his character. Plus, it would give a cool homage to Jason after Jason's death in the Burning Maze. It would be like a book to look back on and remember Jason's sacrifice that would be able to help readers fill in the gaps in Jason's past and understand who he really was as a person and as a character. Also, wouldn't it be cool to see Jason's life in Camp Jupiter? I mean, we've been to Camp Jupiter multiple times since the Heroes of Olympus, but what about in Jason's eyes? Wouldn't it be interesting to see how Jason reacted to the place and learn its culture while befriending Reyna? It would also be great to see how Jason rose to the ranks as Centurion and then Praetor, and we could even see the different quests and battles people say he faced. There are so many more things to explore with Jason that could be written in one book for him, after being thrown in the background all the time in the books. Through this novel, Jason could actually get the spotlight for once and help us understand him so much more. And now, let's summarize this video. Jason is a character who was almost always thrown in the back seat and overshadowed by many other characters. He was someone who lacked a backstory and a backbone to his story, and this made him a forgettable and hateable character because it seemed like he wasn't bringing anything new to the table. However, if you try to look at his character in a different light, you'd realize that there's so much more to explore about Jason, and a great way to do that is through a standalone novel. This idea would honestly be something that Rick would not be against, because he already did this for Nico D'Angelo and Will Solis in The Sun and the Star, so there could be a possibility that he could write one for Jason. So far, there's no news, but I honestly wish it would happen because it would be so cool to see Jason in a book of his own, and as readers, we will be able to be in his shoes again and connect with him more. So how about you? What do you think of a standalone novel for Jason? Let me know in the comments down below.